Now we will study what type of customs and practices they followed the people in the ancient period. What were the customs and traditions or practices they followed? We know that the scholars have studied about the lives of the present day farmers who practice simple agriculture. Okay, simple method of agriculture. Also studied the lives of herders. That means farmers and herders. People became farmers and herders who take care of animals, who are growing large number of animals. So what type of practices and customs they followed, traditions they followed, their beliefs in God and all. So many of the farmers and herders, they lived in groups only. Okay, not single, because we have already studied that people early lived in groups in order to protect themselves from the wild animals. Also they felt it was safe to live together, so many of the people lived together, okay, in groups, which was known as tribes. People who lived in groups, so that it was called as tribes. So such kind of tribes lived in largely in groups, so that many of such groups together known as one village also. Villages were also created or formed in such a way. So scholars find that they follow certain customs and traditions, okay, which existed earlier also. They generally believed in the nature gods, not like the present day gods. They followed the nature gods. Usually the 2 or 3 generations can be found in one group. Okay, one group of people, many generations lived together in settlements, small settlements or small areas or small villages. Okay, they all, we can find most of these families are related to one another in one tribal group or one area or one village. We can find many families now also. The same way they also lived with many families are there, but they are all related to each other. In a tribe, many group of people or many families live together, but they are relatives or related to each other. So members of a tribe follow the particular customs and occupations almost similar. There are no differences. What are the practices? They all followed same way. I mean, mostly what occupations they followed? They hunted, gathering, farming, herding and fishing. These were the main occupations. They hunted animals, gathered the food grains, also farming they had done, cultivation of crops, they herding animals, they had a large number of animals and fishing. These were the important occupation of the tribes. Women also did some of the agricultural work along with the men. Women also helped men in the agriculture and preparing the ground, sowing seeds, looking after and growing plants, harvesting grain. These all works the women also did along with the men. Children also look after the plants, driving away the animals and birds, and which had eaten, which might eat their crops. Okay, so children also helped the parents in driving away the animals and taking care of their crops. Also, women also did many other works like threshing and husking and grinding the grain. So these all works are related with the agriculture. All sorts of helps women offered to men also. Children also looked after their animals, their flock of animals, large number of domestic animals they had, or they tamed the wild animals into domestic animals. So children also looked after their animals also. The cleaning of animals and milking is done both men and women also. We know that animals were grown for a milk purpose. The birds were grown for eggs, provided eggs and meat, etc. And the skin of the animals also used as leather. All these purposes they had domesticated the animals. So even the children also helped their parents or men and women. Both women and men make pots, baskets, tools and huts also. So equally both men and women were engaged in all the activities. Not works were not much divided for men and women. Almost all people did together. They also take part in the other customs and activities like singing, dancing, and even the decorating their huts also. All types of works and even their customs and practices also they participated together. So in the tribes people all lived equally. There was equality among the people, no differences on the different the present day we can find different castes and religions and differences are there. Such kind of differences were not found in the early tribal groups. Some men were regarded as leaders, that powerful person, male person in the group or in the tribe was regarded as their leader. So he may be old person or experienced or sometimes young also. But they were brave, very courageous and brave person and strong person who looked after the entire tribe. He was their leader. Okay, so also brave warriors are there. Young men were warriors. They could fight with other communities and protect their own tribal group. So they were warrior groups like the soldiers. Also priests were there who are taking care of the worshipping of gods or leading the worshipping of gods and temple priests now. So there were also priests among them. Old women were respected, okay, for their wisdom and experience. Old women who has more knowledge and experience were given much respect also. Tribals had a rich culture also and including their own language. We know that still the tribal people who are in our country, they have their own language, particular music, folk music which we say. They have their own music and stories and paintings etc. were unique, a different type, not similar to the modern men. And they have a particular unique type of music and cultural traditions etc. Also they had their own gods and goddesses. Mostly the tribes worshipped the nature gods, maybe the rain or thunder, lightning, all the trees etc. They worshipped whatever the material, whatever the things available in the nature they worshipped. Okay. So what makes these tribals different from other societies? So we can find about they are completely isolated. They are living very close to the nature. Okay, so without destroying the nature, they live in the very close to the nature. So about their land, forest, grasslands. So these are all regarded as the wealth of the entire tribe, not individual. So all the land, grasslands or forests, whatever they lived or settled, completely belonged to the entire tribe, entire their community, entire group. So they cultivated collectively and shared the products or shared the food grain available. So everybody had equal shares. So whatever they cultivated, they shared equally. There were no differences between the rich and poor, because we know that when the products were the food grain, everything was shared equally. There were no rich and no poor. Like unlike the modern world, no rich and poor, all people were considered equal, because there were no different castes and religions. Also people all were considered the part of a group or a tribe equally.